In ancient times, there was a giant sacred text known as the Vedas. These Vedas contained all the knowledge and wisdom, covering various subjects like rituals, philosophy, Ayurveda, and spirituality. However, they were all compiled into one large body of text. Then came a sage named Vyasa. He saw the vastness of the Vedas and realized that it would be easier for people to understand and study them if they were divided into smaller, more manageable parts. So, Veda Vyasa undertook the monumental task of dividing the Vedas into 4 distinct sections. Because of his remarkable accomplishment of dividing the Vedas, Vyasa earned the title of Veda Vyasa, which means the one who divided the Vedas. This division made the knowledge contained in the Vedas more accessible to people, allowing them to study and practice its teachings more effectively. Thus, Veda Vyasa's contribution became instrumental in preserving and spreading the ancient wisdom of the Vedas. After meticulously dividing the Vedas into 4 distinct sections, Veda Vyasa found solace in his peaceful slumber. However, one fateful day, as he lay asleep, a disturbance disrupted his tranquil rest. Veda Vyasa began to experience vivid and unsettling visuals within the depths of his mind. In his dreams, he witnessed scenes of chaos and discord unfolding before him. The tranquility of his rest was shattered by the tumultuous imagery that played out in his subconscious. Veda Vyasa, startled awake by the intensity of these visions, found himself abruptly roused from his sleep. With a jolt, he sat up, his heart racing with the remnants of the unsettling dreams that lingered in his mind. The darkness of the night enveloped him as he tried to make sense of the cryptic messages hidden within his troubled sleep. As he pondered the meaning behind these disturbing visions, Veda Vyasa felt a sense of urgency wash over him. It was as if the universe itself was calling out to him, urging him to unravel the mysteries that lay concealed within the depths of his subconscious. With determination burning bright within him, Veda Vyasa resolved to delve deeper into the realms of knowledge and enlightenment. Little did he know that this unsettling experience would set him on a path that would alter the course of history forever. Veda Vyasa sits to meditate for answers. Closing his eyes, he feels like he's leaving the present, entering a timeless realm. Visions of the future appear, showing a world filled with fights and problems. He understands these visions show why his dreams were unsettling. What he saw in his vision shocked him like never before. Veda Vyasa, witnessing the Kurukshetra war, was stunned by its unprecedented violence. The carnage and destruction surpassed anything he had ever imagined. Amidst the chaos, he observed the war unfolding before him, feeling as if he stood amidst the chaos unseen. While invisible to others, he witnessed every moment of the conflict with clarity and intensity. From the clash of armies to the cries of the wounded, he bore witness to the unfolding tragedy with a heavy heart. The enormity of the conflict left him with a chilling sense of dread, as if witnessing the twilight of humanity. In the midst of the chaos, he feared that this catastrophic war signaled the end of mankind. As he silently observed the turmoil unseen, Vyasa felt strongly like someone was watching him. When he saw a man standing still in the chaos of war, Vyasa looked into his eyes, only to find himself met with a knowing smile. Shocked by this unexpected interaction, Vyasa's trance was abruptly shattered, and he hastily returned to the present moment, opening his eyes in astonishment and breaking free from his meditation. Vyasa thought to revisit the future, but this time he intent on documenting all he witnessed. Realizing he couldn't write while in his trance, he sought someone to transcribe his observations as he saw them. With a determined spirit, realizing the need for a swift and skilled writer, Vyasa reached out to Lord Ganesha through the metaphysical realm. In a short while, Lord Ganesha appeared before the meditating sage. Vyasa explained the gravity of the situation and the importance of documenting his visions. Understanding the significance of the task, Ganesha readily agreed to assist Vyasa in transcribing the legendary scripture. With Ganesha's divine aid, Vyasa prepared to embark on this journey once more, ensuring that the knowledge gleaned from his visions would be preserved for future generations. Before embarking on Vyasa's journey through time, Ganesha asked what should be the title of the scripture. Vyasa, taking a deep breath, responded with solemnity, This story begins with Pratipa Maharaj, who had 3 sons. The eldest, Devapati, wasn't interested in kingdom, wealth, or power. He chose a spiritual life in the Himalayas. In his journey, Devapati came across the enchanting floating city of Shambhala, associated with Kalki in Kali Yuga. The second son, Balika, left his kingdom during childhood and grew up in his uncle's kingdom. Lastly, there was Shantanu, the youngest and most significant son. Shantanu eventually ascended the throne after his father, Pratipa, passing the responsibility of the kingdom onto him. The story we are going to witness now is from a long ago to Dwapara Yuga, but it has a vital connection with the Mahabharata. 8 Vasus, along with their wives, arrived at the ashram of sage Vashishta. In the ashram, sage Vashishta's cow grazed peacefully. One Vasu named Prabhas was captivated by the cow's beauty and learned that drinking its milk could grant eternal youth. Prabhas, desiring the cow, thought of kidnapping it, and the remaining 7 Vasus didn't bother to stop him, neither to drink the cow's milk. Sage Vashishta discovered the missing cow and the Vasu's wrongdoing, leading him to realize that the cow had been taken. Using his mystical powers, Sage Vashishta cursed all 8 Vasus to be born in the land of death, which is the earth. Vasus were terrified by knowing this curse and pleaded Vashishta for mercy. Once a curse is uttered, even the one who pronounced it cannot reverse it. So Sage Vashishta altered the curse. The 7 Vasus who were innocent would be freed from the curse upon their birth, while Prabhas, the one who committed the crime, would have to live his entire life in the land of death. For them, being born as humans on earth is like a curse because they were used to a different way of life. In their world, they didn't need to eat, breathe, or do other things humans struggle with to survive. Another time, countless gods, Gandharvas, Yakshas, and celestial beings gather at Brahma Loka, the abode of Lord Brahma, for the grand assembly. The divine atmosphere is filled with their majestic presence, creating a spectacle of unparalleled magnificence. In a moment of folly, Samudra catches a glimpse of Ganga adjusting her sari in a seemingly objectionable manner. This mistake, fueled by desire, leads to a grave consequence as Lord Brahma curses both Samudra and Ganga. Recognizing their lapse in judgment, Brahma decrees that they will be born as humans on earth, destined to live out their lives amidst the trials and tribulations of mortal existence. Upon learning of Ganga's curse, the 8 Vasus approached her with a request. Understanding the gravity of their situation, they beseeched Ganga to bear them as her sons, knowing that if they were born to ordinary humans, they would be condemned to endure the trials of mortal life. They pleaded with Ganga to end their lives immediately upon their birth, sparing them from the suffering that awaited them in the world of mortals. As we observe, every action, every birth, and every circumstance is shaped by our deeds and karma. On a serene and radiant day, Ganga transformed from her divine essence into a mortal form, rising gracefully from the waters in the guise of a breathtaking woman. It had been ages since she had experienced the tangible beauty of earth, and now, immersed in its wonders once more, she felt a deep longing stirring within her. With a heart filled with anticipation and purpose, Ganga traversed the verdant landscapes, marveling at the lush forests, vibrant flowers, and crystal-clear streams. Her senses drank in the sights, sounds, and fragrances of the earthly realm, each moment a testament to the enchantment of mortal existence. Yet, amidst the splendor of nature, Ganga remained mindful of her divine mission: to fulfill her destiny by finding a suitable man to father her sons. With determination burning bright within her, she embarked on her quest, guided by the silent whispers of fate and the boundless depths of her own ancient wisdom. He came upon Pratipa Maharaj immersed in meditation by the riverbank. Drawn to his serene presence, she approached and, without hesitation, seated herself on his right lap. When Pratipa opened his eyes, he beheld the vision of a radiant woman before him. Ganga, recognizing Pratipa's noble bearing, implored him to grant her wish. Yet, Pratipa, bound by his solemn vow to marry only one woman in this lifetime, respectfully declined her offer. He explained that his duty as a king was to honor his word above all else. Despite Ganga's insistence on the principles of king's duty, Pratipa remained steadfast in his resolve. He reminded her that according to tradition, the woman who sat on the right lap was akin to a daughter-in-law or the first female heir. Thus, he made a solemn promise to send his son to her when he came of age. With a heavy heart, Ganga bid farewell to Pratipa, acknowledging the strength of his convictions, and continued on her journey, trusting in the workings of fate to guide her towards her ultimate purpose. After Pratipa bestowed the kingship upon Shantanu, one fine day he revealed the truth about Ganga to his son. He explained his solemn promise to Ganga, pledging to send his son to marry her and fulfill her destiny of bearing children. Initially hesitant, Shantanu grappled with the weight of his father's promise. However, upon reflection, he realized the potential blessings that a goddess as queen could bring to the kingdom and its people. With a newfound resolve, he accepted his fate and set out to find Ganga at the river banks. After days of tireless searching, Shantanu finally laid eyes upon Ganga, his heart stirred by her incomparable beauty. Overwhelmed by her presence, he approached her and introduced himself as the son of Pratipa, Shantanu Maharaj. Unable to resist the pull of her enchanting allure, he boldly asked for her hand in marriage. However, Ganga, wise and discerning, set forth her conditions before accepting his proposal. She demanded that Shantanu vow never to oppose her will, hinder her actions, or question her decisions. Captivated by her beauty and eager to win her favor, Shantanu willingly acquiesced to her terms without hesitation. Thus, with their fates entwined by destiny, Shantanu and Ganga embarked on a journey together, bound by an unspoken promise of mutual respect and understanding. After their marriage, King Shantanu and his wife Ganga reveled in the bliss of their love for a year, cherishing each moment together in the warmth of their affection. 1 year later, their love bore fruit as Ganga gave birth to a baby boy, a living symbol of their enduring love and bond. Shantanu was filled with unparalleled joy and contentment, for he finally had an heir to the kingdom, bringing him immense happiness and fulfillment. From the birthing chamber, Ganga carried the newborn baby in her arms, her actions shrouded in mystery. Shantanu, unaware of her intentions and bound by his promise, trailed after her in bewilderment. To the banks of the river they journeyed, where Ganga, with a solemn gaze, cast their child into the flowing waters. Shantanu's heart recoiled in shock, his inner turmoil raging, yet his lips remained sealed by the vow he had made to Ganga. Within a year, once again, Ganga bore another son, and as before, she carried the newborn to the river's edge without hesitation. With a heavy heart and a solemn expression, she cast the infant into the flowing waters, while Shantanu, bound by his vow of silence, could only watch in silent despair. Despite the passage of another year, the tragic cycle repeated itself once more. Ganga, giving birth to yet another son, carried out the same sorrowful ritual, taking the newborn to the river and casting him into its depths. Shantanu, burdened by grief and his solemn promise, stood by silently, his heart heavy with the weight of his unspoken sorrow. As Ganga continued her devastating actions, Shantanu's patience wore thin with each passing year. The births of their fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh sons were marked by the same tragic fate, as Ganga carried out her grim task without remorse. Despite his silent suffering, Shantanu struggled to contain the growing turmoil within him. Finally, on the brink of despair, Shantanu could bear the weight of his grief and the burden of his promise no longer. With his heart heavy and his soul tormented, he could no longer remain silent in the face of such unspeakable tragedy. The moment of reckoning had come, and Shantanu found the courage to confront Ganga when she was about to do the same for their eighth son, breaking the vow of silence that had bound him for so long. Shantanu finally voiced his anguish and questioned Ganga's actions. She met his gaze with a solemn expression. With a heavy heart, she revealed the truth that she had been waiting for this moment, the moment when the weight of their shared destiny would come to light. In a voice laden with sorrow, Ganga unraveled the tale of her cursed existence and the intertwined fate of the 8 Vasus. She recounted the ancient events that had unfolded ages ago, the curses that had bound them all in an inescapable web of fate and consequence. With each word, the pieces of the puzzle fell into place, and Shantanu's understanding deepened. He realized the magnitude of their shared destiny and the weight of the curses that had shaped their lives. With the vow broken, Ganga knew that her time with Shantanu had come to an end. She made the declaration that she must depart from his side, bound by the dictates of fate. Yet, in her departure, she made one final promise, to spare the life of their 8th son. With a mother's love and determination, she vowed to raise the child herself and to one day return him to Shantanu's side. And so, with tears in her eyes and a heavy burden on her heart, Ganga bid farewell to Shantanu, leaving with their precious son cradled in her arms. As she disappeared into the distance, Shantanu watched with a mixture of sorrow and hope, knowing that their destinies were forever entwined, even as they walked separate paths. In the everyday world we know, birth may seem simple, but the tale behind Bhishma's birth spans in a whole different time. It's a story woven from the curses of Ganga and the Vasus, which took place in some other time, lead to some other events, and eventually the birth of Bhishma. And his birth will lead to something else. After Ganga's departure, Shantanu sank into a deep depression, his heart heavy with sorrow. However, clinging to the hope of reuniting with his son someday, he gradually emerged from the depths of his despair. Determined to honor his duties as king, Shantanu redirected his focus towards the welfare of his kingdom, rekindling his sense of purpose and responsibility. As he immersed himself in the affairs of the realm, Shantanu rediscovered his lost virtues and regal demeanor. With renewed determination, he embarked on a path of righteousness, upholding justice and fairness in his rule. Witnessing his transformation, his subjects marveled at his resilience and strength of character, realizing that their king was no ordinary man. Inspired by his unwavering resolve and benevolent governance, the people rallied behind Shantanu, their admiration for him growing stronger than ever before. From the depths of despair, Shantanu emerged as a beacon of hope and leadership, earning the respect and adoration of his people as a truly great king. Shantanu diligently focused on strengthening his army, recognizing the importance of preparedness in the face of potential threats. Under his guidance, rigorous training sessions were conducted to enhance the skills and prowess of his soldiers. The army trainer assured Shantanu that each warrior would be capable of defeating at least 10 opponents at once. They were specially trained to adeptly defend against volleys of arrows launched by 10 archers at once, while simultaneously launching counterattacks with precision and skill. Shantanu felt a surge of joy and pride swell within him as he beheld his fortified army, knowing that they stood as a formidable force ready to defend the kingdom against any adversity. For over 2 decades, Shantanu had governed his kingdom with unwavering devotion, fostering love and unity among his people while diligently fortifying his army. The saints of the kingdom decorated his rule by revered title of Raja Rajeshwara, signifying his status as a king among kings. One day, while patrolling his kingdom, Shantanu chanced upon a woman whose beauty stirred memories of Ganga within him. The woman, engaged in the humble task of fishing, caught Shantanu's attention with her grace and simplicity. Intrigued, Shantanu approached her and learned that her name was Satyavati. Her demeanor, marked by humility and kindness, captivated Shantanu's heart. In a bold move, Shantanu expressed his desire to marry Satyavati, surprising her with his proposal. Overwhelmed by the unexpected offer from the king of Hastinapur himself, Satyavati felt a mixture of confusion and fear. She hesitated, suggesting that the decision should be completely her father's, with a suggestion to discuss the matter with her father Dasharaja. Satyavati retreated, leaving Shantanu to ponder the implications of his proposal. Shantanu sent a summons to Satyavati's father, Dasharaja, who arrived at the palace feeling tense and apprehensive. Overwhelmed by the grandeur of the palace, Dasharaja met Shantanu, who expressed his desire to marry Satyavati. Delighted by the proposal, Dasharaja immediately accepted, his heart brimming with joy at the thought of his grandson's becoming king of Hastinapura in the future. Shantanu, filled with respect and gratitude, hugged Dasaraja and assured that he would make all the necessary arrangements for the marriage, leaving Dasaraja to return home with boundless happiness. One day, an informant approached King Shantanu with troubling news that complaints had surfaced regarding the halted flow of the Ganga River, causing concern among the people. Shocked by this revelation, Shantanu wasted no time in taking action. He promptly dispatched a group of his ministers and soldiers to investigate the issue and determine the cause of the river's stagnation. The soldiers departed from the palace and arrived at the Ganga River, where they were met with a startling sight. The water had ceased to flow. Determined to uncover the cause, they traced the river's path and stumbled upon a colossal barrier constructed entirely of arrows, obstructing the natural flow of the river. The magnitude of this discovery left them stunned, realizing the gravity of the situation before them. Soldiers surmised that constructing such a barrier would require the efforts of at least 1,000 men. Undeterred, they pressed forward, intent on uncovering the mystery. Expecting to encounter an opposing army, the soldiers instead found themselves confronted by a solitary figure, armed with a bow, standing defiantly in their path. The man introduced himself as Devavratha and claimed that he was the one who stopped the Ganga River flow. The soldiers scoffed at his assertion that he alone had stopped the flow of the Ganga River, asserting that such a monumental feat could not have been accomplished by a single man. Devavratha insisted on meeting King Shantanu, but the soldiers remained unconvinced, threatening to apprehend him and present him to the king as a captive. Devavratha issued a stern warning to the soldiers, cautioning them that unless King Shantanu was brought to the scene, the flow of the river would remain obstructed, and they would face dire consequences. Enraged by his defiance, a soldier raised his bow to strike. But before he could release his arrow, Devavratha swiftly intervened, his own arrow shattering the soldier's bow mid. With remarkable agility and precision, Devavratha leaped into action, launching a barrage of arrows at the soldiers. Moving with incredible speed and agility, Devavratha skillfully dodged the arrows launched by the soldiers, evading their attacks with ease. Attacking with lightning-fast speed, Devavratha struck the soldiers with relentless precision, moving so swiftly that they struggled to pinpoint his location amidst the flurry of his assaults. Devavratha effortlessly evaded the onslaught of hundreds of arrows, appearing almost as if the arrows themselves refused to strike him. To further amplify his prowess, Devavratha swiftly mounted a horse. Dozens of them, not able to overcome a single man, made the soldiers tense and frustrated, shouted aloud in exasperation. Despite the challenges of shooting from a swiftly moving horse, Devavratha's arrows found their mark with unerring accuracy, swiftly felling each soldier from their mounts one by one, leaving them incapacitated on the ground. To bring the confrontation to a conclusion, Devavratha placed an arrow upon his forehead, closed his eyes, and recited a powerful mantra silently within his mind. With focused determination, he released the arrow, which transformed into 1,000 projectiles in the sky and mercilessly rained down on the soldiers. One soldier, who had remained unaffected by the arrows, opened his eyes to find Devavratha right in front of his face, locking eyes with him. Devavratha repeated his earlier sentence, that he was the one who stopped the Ganga river flow. But this time the soldier didn't scoff. Instead, he shivered in fear, unable to utter a single word in response. Devavratha, with a smile on his face, once again insisted on meeting King Shantanu. This time without hesitation, the soldier mounted his horse and rushed back to the palace to deliver the urgent message. The soldier swiftly delivered the urgent message to the palace, where it reached King Shantanu, shocking him to the core. Learning that nearly 30 soldiers had been captured without harm, arrows turning into ropes and tying soldiers, and one arrow turning into thousands of arrows, Shantanu realized that a formidable adversary wielding the power of Shastrastra had attacked their kingdom. In response, he swiftly ordered his ministers to assemble the whole army within the hour, setting out for the site of the incident alongside the available soldiers. During his tense journey from the palace to the site of the incident, even being the king of the greatest kingdom on earth, Shantanu encountered sights unlike anything he had ever witnessed before in his entire life. Furthermore, he discovered that his soldiers had been ensnared by arrows made of an unfamiliar material, possessing a flexibility akin to threads, rendering them completely immobile. Mesmerized by these unnatural occurrences, Shantanu was left pondering the identity of the individual responsible for such extraordinary displays of power. Shantanu observed Devavratha seated proudly, having subdued his soldiers with his divine powers. Despite feeling a twinge of fear, not for his own life, but for the potential harm Devavratha could inflict upon his people and kingdom if he chose to slay him and his army, Shantanu concealed his apprehension, maintaining a facade of composure in his face, not wanting to reveal any weakness to his adversary. Finally, Shantanu came face to face with Devavratha. While Shantanu praised Devavratha for his remarkable feat of defeating so many soldiers single-handedly, he also made it clear that he would not cower or retreat in fear of Devavratha's powers. Shantanu then questioned why Devavratha had taken such actions. Despite being surrounded by the enemy army, Devavratha displayed no fear and calmly responded that he had acted upon his mother's command. With great curiosity, Shantanu asked Devavratha who his mother was. Devavratha calmly replied that his mother was Ganga. Shantanu was shocked, but also filled with happiness, as he had been waiting for this moment for over 2 decades. He felt relieved knowing that Devavratha was his own son and would not harm his kingdom. Shantanu then questioned why Devavratha had stopped the flow of the Ganga river and imprisoned his soldiers. Devavratha explained that he was simply following his mother's orders and did not know the reason behind them. This left Shantanu puzzled as to why Ganga had issued such commands. Devavratha revealed that his mother, Ganga, had instructed him to blast the barricade of arrows. Once King Shantanu met him to understand why she instructed me to take those actions. Following his mother's command, Devavratha aimed 2 of his arrows at the barricade and shot it with precision. As a result, the majestic barricade shattered, and the Ganga River began to flow once again. Shantanu and the soldiers were shocked to see only 2 arrows blast through such a gigantic barricade with just 1 shot. Once the river started flowing again, it peacefully followed its natural course without overflowing its banks. After the river settled down, Goddess Ganga emerged from its waters. Shantanu was stunned to see his wife after over 2 decades. Ganga approached Shantanu, and tears filled his eyes as he beheld her. After the emotional reunion between Shantanu and Ganga, Ganga revealed that she returned to fulfill her promise made over 2 decades ago. She pledged to raise their 8th son to be a great warrior and scholar, and she presented Devavratha as their son, disclosing the truth to both Shantanu and Devavratha. Ganga wanted to demonstrate Devavratha's power and intelligence to King Shantanu upon his return after 20 years, ensuring that she fulfilled her promise to raise their 8th son to be a great warrior and scholar. Therefore, she orchestrated the events with Devavratha stopping the flow of the Ganga River, facing any consequences without killing anyone. As Devavratha is the son of King Shantanu, Shantanu can easily announce Devavratha as his heir and throne him as king, but he must be accepted by the people, ministers, soldiers, and everyone in the kingdom. By displaying his powers, he showed the world his capabilities, ensuring that he will be recognized not only as a worthy leader, but also as a powerful warrior. Ganga explained that this was the reason behind Devavratha's actions. Extremely excited by Devavratha's formidable prowess with divine weapons, Shantanu asked Ganga about who had imparted such remarkable training to their son in the use of these astras. Ganga, with a serene and composed smile, responded, "Lord Parashurama, the avatar of the supreme god Vishnu himself, was renowned for his merciless destruction of countless corrupt kings and rulers and restored Dharma on planet Earth. He was revered as one of the fiercest and most powerful human manifestations of Lord Vishnu. Trained by Lord Parashurama, Devavratha became immensely powerful with divyastras. Divyastras aren't just physical objects, they embody the power of mantras. With this power, a simple arrow can transform into a weapon of supernatural might. Agnayastra, a potent mantra that channels the energy of fire, infusing the arrow with blazing power, capable of decimating entire cities. Mastery of this mantra grants endless use of the weapon to the wielder. Vaishnavastra, a powerful incantation that transforms ordinary arrows into an invisible shield, protecting armies and cities from destructive weapons, and also capable of neutralizing other astras, providing comprehensive protection to the desired area. Mohini Astra, a deceptive mantra that conjures illusions to confuse and distract enemies. It creates illusions of armies in the sky, phantom faces, and flying horses, as well as hypnotic images that sow chaos and bewilderment among the opposing forces, making it difficult to discern reality from illusion. It also generates deceptive illusions, making allies appear as enemies, making them attack each other in confusion and leading them to kill their own army. Suryastra. Suryastra is a weapon linked with the sun god Surya, emitting intense heat and blinding light, its scorching rays intensifying beyond measure. Soldiers, clad in armor, are rendered helpless as their skin begins to blister and peel under the relentless assault of the searing heat. They will be in agony as their bodies are roasted alive, the intense temperature causing them to evaporate into thin air. Narayanastra. The Narayanastra is one of the most powerful celestial weapons, notorious for its devastating power. Capable of causing immense destruction, it allows the wielder to select targets, from individuals to entire armies or even all of humanity. The Narayanastra releases a torrent of millions of deadly arrows simultaneously, decimating all in its path. Indeed, there are even more powerful astras like the Brahmastra and the Pashupatastra. Their highest variance possesses the power to annihilate not just a single planet, but entire planetary systems, and even the universe itself, making them two of the most formidable weapons in existence. Along with these, Parashurama taught Devavratha some of the most powerful and destructive astras. His reverence for elders, obedience, and swift learning made him the favorite student of Parashurama. Now, with the power of these astras, Devavratha had the ability to eliminate vast armies and even destroy entire kingdoms with a single strike. With Devavratha's arrival, Hastinapura ascended to become the most formidable and feared kingdom across the entire planet. No king dared even to think of attacking Hastinapura. Instead, many rulers from other kingdoms sought friendship with Hastinapura. Filled with jubilation, King Shantanu proudly declared Prince Devavratha as his rightful heir and the future king of Hastinapura, solidifying his position as the kingdom's protector and ruler.
Upon hearing the news of King Shantanu's decision to appoint his son Devavratha as the heir to the throne of Hastinapura, the announcement quickly spread throughout the kingdom. Dasharaja, who had previously agreed to the marriage between Shantanu and his daughter Satyavati, was deeply saddened by this turn of events. He realized that his grandsons from Satyavati would not be heirs to the kingdom, and in light of this, he decided to cancel the marriage arrangement and convinced Satyavati to accept his decision. Upon hearing from his informers that Dasharaja had cancelled the marriage, Shantanu sent summons to Dasharaja for a meeting at the palace to discuss the matter. However, Dasharaja refused to come to the palace. Perplexed by this unexpected turn of events, Shantanu decided to visit Dasharaja's house himself to understand the reason behind the cancellation of the marriage. He approached Dasharaja and asked him directly for an explanation. Dasharaja, showing respect to Shantanu as his king, explained his reason for cancelling the marriage. He expressed that he initially agreed to the marriage because he hoped that his grandsons would become kings of Hastinapura in the future, but with Shantanu announcing Devavratha as his heir and future king, Dasharaja saw no reason to proceed with the marriage. He conveyed his condition that if Shantanu promised to make his grandson as king, then he would accept the marriage. Shantanu felt deep sadness upon hearing Dasharaja's condition. His heart longed to marry Satyavati, but he couldn't agree to the condition because it would mean betraying Devavratha, who possessed all the qualities of a capable king. Shantanu believed it would be unjust to deny Devavratha his rightful place as heir. Reluctantly, he conveyed his inability to accept Dasharaja's condition. In turn, Dasharaja insisted that he couldn't proceed with the marriage under those circumstances. With a heavy heart, Shantanu left, grappling with his inner turmoil. Shantanu returned to the palace, but his thoughts remained fixated on Satyavati. Hoping to ease his longing, he initially believed he could overcome his feelings with time. However, as days passed, his thoughts of her only intensified. In an attempt to suppress his emotions, he turned to substances, which gradually turned into an addiction. Depressed and consumed by his addiction, Shantanu neglected his duties as king, failing to attend meetings or make important decisions. Observing his decline, ministers and sages grew concerned. While Devavratha began to fill in for his father at meetings, he hesitated to confront Shantanu about his behavior. Pressure mounted on Devavratha to assume the throne, as many believed Shantanu was unfit to rule. Concerned about the kingdom's future, Devavratha approached Shantanu to inquire about his changed behavior and deep sadness. Devavratha, who possessed immense power and capability, offered to do anything to alleviate his father's suffering. Despite this, Shantanu hesitated to confide in him, unwilling to indirectly ask Devavratha to sacrifice his future kingship for his personal desires. Refusing to disclose the reason, Shantanu kept his turmoil hidden. But Devavratha later learned the truth from one of Shantanu's close ministers. Devavratha decided to confront Satyavati and his father to address the issue. Upon reaching Dasharaja's house, he inquired about the reason behind Dasharaja's reluctance to marry his daughter to Shantanu. With apprehension, Dasharaja expressed his desire for his grandson to inherit the throne, a wish now hindered by Shantanu's announcement of Devavratha as the next king. Surprisingly, Devavratha didn't react with anger or sadness. Instead, he felt very happy and elated, because this problem is something that he can solve with ease. He assured Dasharaja that he would gladly relinquish the throne to Shantanu and Satyavati's son, his own brother, ensuring a smooth succession. Though Dasharaja felt some relief, he remained wary, fearing future conflicts between Devavratha's sons and Satyavati's sons. Concerned about the kingdom's unity, Devavratha promptly pledged to remain unmarried for life to prevent such turmoil. Dasharaja, despite feeling somewhat reassured, remained not fully satisfied. He expressed concern that Devavratha's promise made in private might not hold weight without witnesses. Devavratha replied with conviction that the 5 elements, sky, wind, fire, earth, and water, are the eternal witnesses to his oath. Dasharaja, skeptical, laughed and retorted, intending, how can the elements bear witness? They cannot speak if Devavratha break his promise. Devavratha was determined to make Dasharaja believe that the 5 elements will witness his oath. Devavratha stood firm, his voice resonating with determination as he made his solemn oath. I, Devavratha, son of Shantanu and Ganga, pledging that I will neither marry in my lifetime nor father sons, he invoked on the god of the sky. Suddenly rain began to pour down, accompanied by flashes of lightning. On Vayudeva, a powerful gust began to blow, causing the rooftop to tremble and objects to topple over. Devi, the goddess of the earth, the ground began to shake, causing people to lose their balance and fall down. On Varuna Deva, the god of water, the gentle rain turned into a torrential downpour, causing the water levels to rise rapidly within seconds. On Agni Deva, the god of fire, a lightning bolt struck a nearby tree, setting it ablaze. And with each declaration, nature responded dramatically, as if affirming his vow. Dasharaja, witnessing these extraordinary events, was filled with awe and fear, realizing the gravity of Devavratha's promise. After his great sacrifice, which no one had ever done before or since in the world, Akashavani, an invisible voice from nowhere, praised this act and bestowed upon Devavratha the title of Bhishma. From that moment on, he would be identified and glorified as Bhishma in history forever. Dasharaja, marveling at the awe-inspiring response of nature to Bhishma's oath, joyously dispatched his daughter Satyavati alongside Bhishma to the palace. As Shantanu heard of Devavratha's sacrifice, a wave of profound sorrow engulfed him, drowning him in a sea of regret. He despised himself for ever harboring the desire to marry Satyavati, realizing the immense sacrifice his son had made for him. Each thought of his own selfish longing pierced his heart like 1,000 daggers, tormenting him with the weight of his own folly. In the depths of his anguish, Shantanu found himself consumed by a storm of remorse, lamenting the irreversible consequences of his actions. Bhishma and Satyavati arrived at the palace. Shantanu's heart was already heavy with sorrow. Upon seeing his beloved son, he couldn't contain his emotions and rushed to embrace Bhishma tightly. In that moment of profound connection, Shantanu felt the weight of Bhishma's sacrifice crashing down upon him like a mountain of remorse. He understood the magnitude of Bhishma's vow, realizing that his cherished son had willingly renounced the joys of marriage and fatherhood, condemning himself to a solitary existence devoid of familial ties. The depth of Bhishma's sacrifice pierced Shantanu's soul, leaving him overwhelmed with grief and regret for the irreversible consequences of his desires. Despite his sorrow and regret, Shantanu recognized the profound sacrifice Bhishma had made for the sake of his father's happiness. In a gesture of gratitude and appreciation, Shantanu bestowed upon Bhishma an unprecedented boon, the gift of invincibility against death itself. With this divine blessing, Bhishma was granted the power to control the timing of his own demise, ensuring that death would only come to him when he willingly allowed it. Overwhelmed by the magnitude of this extraordinary gift, Bhishma was deeply moved and humbled by his father's gesture. Finally, Shantanu and Satyavati entered into the union of marriage. Their hearts were still tinged with a trace of sadness, for the path to their union had been fraught with sacrifice and compromise. Yet, amidst the bittersweetness of their union, one man radiated pure joy. Dasharaja. His countenance aglow with happiness, Dasharaja envisioned a future where his grandson would ascend to the throne of Hastinapura, a dream that filled his heart with boundless delight. As time flowed by, Shantanu and Satyavati found solace in their love and began to embrace the joys of life. Their happiness knew no bounds when they welcomed their firstborn son, whom they named Chitrangada, into the world. Soon after, another blessing graced their lives as Satyavati gave birth to a second son, whom they lovingly called Vichitraveerya. Under the tutelage of Bhishma, both Chitrangada and Vichitravirya honed their education and combat prowess. Chitrangada, displaying exceptional talent, excelled particularly in martial arts and battle strategies, showing a keen interest in combat skills over the study of dharma and scriptures. In contrast, Vichitravirya showed little inclination towards either martial training or scholarly pursuits, lacking interest in both battle skills and the study of Vedas. Shantanu, observing his son's progress under Bhishma's guidance, felt a mix of pride and concern. While he admired Chitrangada's martial prowess, he also worried about his single-minded focus on warfare, hoping he would balance it with wisdom and righteousness. Vichitravirya's lack of interest in both combat and learning troubled Shantanu, as he wished for his sons to embody the virtues of a well-rounded leader. Slowly, Shantanu's health began to weaken, his vitality waning with each passing day. Despite the best efforts of his physicians and the care of his loved ones, the inevitable could not be forestalled. Finally, one day, the great king breathed his last. Leaving behind a legacy of strength, wisdom, and love for his kingdom and family. For his final journey, thousands of people and soldiers gathered to pay their respects and accompany the procession. Bhishma took the reins of the chariot, leading the solemn procession as it wound its way through the city streets. With a heavy heart and a sense of responsibility weighing on his mind, Bhishma guided the chariot to the funeral pyre where his father's body lay. With reverence and sorrow, he performed the sacred rites, ensuring that Shantanu's final journey was carried out with dignity and honor. Years passed, and Chitrangada blossomed into a formidable warrior under Bhishma's tutelage. His prowess with the sword and accuracy with his arrows were unmatched, honed by his fervent dedication to combat training. However, alongside his skills grew an arrogance, a belief that he was peerless in his abilities. As promised, Bhishma orchestrated the coronation of Chitrangada as the prince and future king of Hastinapura. Satyavati was overjoyed to witness her son ascending to the position of prince and the future king of Hastinapura. Dasharaja, who created chaos to witness this pivotal moment, remained as a painting adorning the walls of the palace. One day, the arrogant Chitrangada, consumed by his pride and disregard for others, was on the verge of committing a grave act by intending to kill his sparring partner to assert his dominance. Bhishma, wise and ever watchful, intervened, admonishing Chitrangada for his misguided actions. However, in his arrogance, Chitrangada dismissed Bhishma's counsel, declaring that he was unstoppable and could act as he pleased. In a rash decision fueled by his ego, Chitrangada stormed out of the palace, mounted on his horse, determined to follow his own path. Despite Bhishma's hopes for his return, Chitrangada disappeared without a trace, leaving behind a void of uncertainty and concern. For 3 long years, Bhishma and his soldiers tirelessly searched for Chitrangada, their efforts yielding no success. The kingdom remained in a state of apprehension, mourning the loss of their prince and the uncertainty of his fate. Finally, the dreaded news arrived. Chitrangada had met his demise in a tragic encounter with a Gandharva who shared his name. It was a conflict born out of a petty rivalry, as the Gandharva harbored animosity towards a human bearing his name. Bhishma, weighed down by sorrow and regret, mourned the loss of the kingdom's future ruler, a victim of his own arrogance. Satyavati, though grieving deeply for her son, bore the tragedy with stoic acceptance, recognizing the role Chitrangada's pride had played in his downfall. In the face of adversity, she remained resolute, unwilling to assign blame, but acknowledging the harsh reality of her son's untimely demise. Amidst murmurs of discontent and dissent among the ministers and royal gurus, Bhishma's authoritative decree echoed through the halls of power, compelling them to acquiesce to his decision to crown Vichitraveerya as the king of Hastinapura. With his unwavering conviction and commanding presence, he quashed any opposition, leaving no room for debate or alternative options. Reluctantly, the kingdom acquiesced to Bhishma's decision, bowing to his unmatched authority and wisdom even in the face of uncertainty and doubt. In the shadow of Chitrangada's tragic demise, the burden of the kingdom fell upon the unprepared shoulders of Vichitravirya, a prince devoid of kingly virtues. His days were spent in revelry, drowning in drink and shirking responsibility, lacking the gravitas and leadership befitting a ruler. Yet, amidst the chaos and uncertainty, Bhishma and Satyavati reluctantly turned to him as the next in line to the throne, despite his glaring inadequacies. Queen Satyavati, aware of Vichitravirya's inadequacy to rule, embarked on a quest to find him a suitable bride. She believed that through marriage, his offspring might one day inherit the throne and rule the kingdom more effectively in the future. Despite her efforts, no match seemed ideal. However, news reached her of Kashi Raja's announcement of a Swayamvara for his 3 daughters, Amba, Ambika, and Ambalika. Excited by the prospect, Satyavati saw this as an opportunity for Vichitravirya to find a worthy consort. The Swayamvara was a grand event where princes and kings from far and wide showcased their prowess, hoping to win the hearts of the princesses. Satyavati and Bhishma, recognizing that Vichitravirya might not succeed in winning the Swayamvara amidst fierce competition from numerous kings and princes, they devised an alternate plan.
In the heart of Kashi, Prince Amba and Salwa enjoy their time in a beautiful garden, their souls entwined in an unbreakable bond of love. With tender gazes and soft whispers, they confessed their deepest emotions, their words carrying the weight of 1,000 promises. As the moon cast its silvery glow upon the garden, Amber rested her head against Salwa's chest, feeling the steady rhythm of his heartbeat echoing her own. She expressed her profound happiness. The day she had long awaited finally dawned upon her. Tomorrow, in the grand Swayamvara, she would make her choice, and he would be the one she would proudly choose as her husband. Salwa gently clasped Amba's hands in his gaze filled with determination and sincerity. He assured her that he would give his best performance in the Swayamvara, striving to win her hand with every ounce of his strength. Yet Amba's words touched his heart deeply, her declaration of unwavering love echoing within him. With a soft smile, she confessed that even if he chose not to attend the Swayamvara, she would seek him out and crown him with her garland, for her heart belonged to him, and she couldn't live a moment without him. The vibrant ambience of the Swayamvara in Kashi reverberated with excitement as crowds from far and wide gathered to partake in the grand spectacle. Amongst them, kings and princes from distant realms awaited eagerly, each vying for the chance to showcase their prowess and win the hearts of the three princesses. As murmurs of anticipation rippled through the crowd, contestants brimmed with heightened excitement. Kings and princes, who had diligently honed their skills and meticulously strategized for this moment, awaited eagerly to display their prowess and vie for the favor of the three princesses. With an aura of regal authority, Kashi Raja took center stage, his voice booming across the stadium as he welcomed the esteemed guests, kings and princes, hailing from distant lands and noble lineages. His words resonated with warmth and hospitality, setting the tone for the auspicious occasion of the Swayamvara to commence. Three resplendent princesses, adorned in exquisite attire, graced the stadium with their presence, eager to witness the prowess of the participants. Bhishma's unexpected arrival sent shockwaves through the stadium. For his participation meant an almost certain victory, yet his oath of celibacy puzzled the onlookers, leaving them wondering about his intentions. With a mixture of fear and eagerness, Kashiraja hastened towards Bhishma, respectfully inquiring about his unexpected presence. Bhishma, wearing a gentle smile, ascended to the elevated stage in the midst of the stadium, his voice resonating loudly as he declared the purpose of his arrival. He explained that marriages were categorized into 8 types, one being the Swayamvara, where the victor of a competition earns the hand of the princess. Asserting that his actions were in accordance with Dharma, he announced his intention to take the 3 princesses with him, inviting any contender who wished to vie for their hands to challenge him in combat and emerge victorious. As chaos erupted in the stadium, warriors and kings scrambled in every direction, some fleeing in fear while others, fueled by ambition, charged towards Bhishma with their weapons drawn. Bhishma, standing steadfast, wielded his sword with unparalleled precision, swiftly evading each attack and retaliating with lethal strikes of his own. His movements were fluid as if choreographed by fate itself, swiftly dismantling his adversaries with each powerful blow in a matter of moments. The battlefield was strewn, fallen warriors, their futile attempts at resistance, quickly forgotten in the face of Bhishma's relentless onslaught. As the battlefield descended into chaos, severed limbs littered the ground, and crimson streams of blood painted the earth. Witnessing the gruesome spectacle, some kings recoiled in horror and fled, their hearts gripped with fear for their own lives. Despite the valiant efforts of a few, none could rival Bhishma's mastery of the sword. With each swing of his blade, he single-handedly dispatched all challengers, his prowess reminiscent of the legendary Bhargava Rama himself. As the chaos subsided, Bhishma commanded his soldiers to escort the three queens to their chariots, swiftly moving to depart from the stadium. Despite Salva's valiant efforts to intervene, the crowded surroundings hindered his attempts to reach them in time. Determined to prevent the abduction, Salva trailed behind Bhishma's chariot, his heart filled with a sense of urgency and dread. Traveling through dense forests, Salva swiftly reached Bhishma's chariot and unleashed a barrage of arrows at him. Observing this, Bhishma instructed his charioteer to hasten their pace, assuming that the pursuers would relent. However, Salva persisted, relentlessly shooting arrows that, though they failed to injure Bhishma, pierced through the air with relentless determination. As Bhishma invoked the Varanastra to quash all his pursuers in one fell swoop, it manifested with an ominous fury, unleashing a torrential downpour of water with a deafening roar. This onslaught surged forth with unstoppable force, engulfing Salva and the soldiers in its relentless embrace. A tempest of devastation ensued, washing away men, horses, chariots, and even Salva's last vestiges of hope. Amba, Ambika, and Ambalika drowned in an ocean of sorrow, their hearts heavy with shattered dreams. Amba's agony was particularly unbearable. She searched for the reasons behind the sudden twist in her karma, lost in distracted thoughts, oblivious to the world around her. She couldn't fathom the fact that the blissful world she had built with Salva in her imagination had turned upside down in the blink of an eye. Bhishma presented the three princesses to Queen Satyavati, who received them with warmth and kindness. Despite being forced against their will, she promised to honor them by granting them the status of queens of Hastinapura and vowed to protect their dignity. While Ambika and Ambalika found some solace in Satyavati's comforting words, Amba's grief remained unassuaged, untouched by even a bit. Amba's voice echoed Satyavati's words with sorrow, releasing the pain she had held within for those days with all her strength. Satyavati's face reflected surprise and paled at the intensity of Amba's emotion. While it might have been the moral path for kings to justify their actions by citing past marriages across generations, in a voice trembling with rage, Amba reveals her love for Salva, the depths of their relationship, and their mutual desire for marriage, a truth hidden from her father, Kashiraja. She accuses Bhishma of shattering her dreams, forcibly overturning her life, and rendering her existence lifeless. Shocked and remorseful, Bhishma expresses deep regret, acknowledging that his actions toward Amba would have been vastly different had he known the truth. He declares Amba's freedom, stating that a woman who has accepted someone else as her husband in her heart will not be bound to a forceful marriage, and he refuses to force her into a marriage against her will. With solemnity, he grants her full liberty to go wherever her heart desires. With a heart brimming with relief and eyes glistening with tears of gratitude, Amba felt the weight of her burdens lift. Leaving behind the shadows of fear and despair, she embarked on her journey back to her kingdom, infused with newfound enthusiasm and hope for the future. Salva, in the silent shadows of his harem, unable to bear the burden of humiliation, is succumbing to self-deception. Those who surrounded him with praise as a great warrior who had never tasted defeat, his fearful allies and friends among other state leaders, now seemed to taunt him in his ears as incapable, as an impotent man who cannot protect his future wife. The once spirited behavior of his has now wilted with the pain of disgrace. The wounds inflicted on Salva's body during the Swayamvara battle are nothing compared to the wounds inflicted on his spirit, which has devastated him. For 2 weeks, he has been thrashing in the darkness of his pain, rejecting the comfort of healing hands, as the walls of the fortress echoed with his cries of agony. Forsaking sleep and food, he ruminates on the insult he endured, lashing out in fury at his relatives who come to console, at the servants who bring food, and at the doctors attempting to treat him, acting as if he has lost his senses. With a heart filled with anticipation, Amba, overjoyed with the news that Bhishma had released her, ran directly to Salva, crossing her kingdom to share this joyous news with him first, explaining that all obstacles to their love were now removed. Salva, who was diminished by the pain of the humiliations of his defeat, felt unworthy to face Amba. He believed that she would only remember him as the man who could not defeat Bhishma, viewing him merely as a symbol of his incapacity. In this state of isolation, he could only see Amba as another reminder of his ineptitude, unable to reignite any former love he had for her. Amba was stunned and astonished when Salva told her that he could not accept her as his wife because he had lost to Bhishma, and therefore all rights over her belonged to him. He explained that he could not marry a woman who had been claimed and then abandoned by another man. Amba found Salva's words completely contradictory to the Salva she thought loved her dearly. Amba, who had never imagined that Salva would reject her even in her dreams, was at a loss for immediate action. After explaining how Bhishma had immediately understood their love and released her without any objections, hearing Bhishma's name repeatedly from Amba made his claim that he couldn't believe Bhishma would release her as a virgin. With those words, Amba's heart shattered into 1,000 pieces, and she crumbled with grief, losing the strength to persuade Salva again. In a state of despair, she took one last look at Salva and then turned and walked away. Amba, who had rejected the proposal of becoming the queen of the most powerful kingdom in the world from Satyavati with confidence in her love for Salva, now understood the harsh realities of the world when Salva declared her tarnished and unworthy. Despite knowing that her parents would accept her, the thought that they would be subject to societal disdain deeply troubled her heart. Even in her intense pain, Amba resolved not to be broken and decided to rewrite her own destiny. Convinced that Bhishma's merciless actions were the root cause of her plight, she confronted him, expressing her suffering and demanding justice, asserting that it was his responsibility to rectify the injustice done to her. With a heart filled with emotions, Amba implored Bhishma to marry her, refusing to remain a victim due to his actions and asking him to restore her honor and dignity. She argued that she had every right to demand him as her husband to compensate for the life ruined by him. With deep sympathy for Amba's plight, Bhishma respectfully declined her request to marry her, reminding her of his vow of celibacy, which he could not break even for her. Moreover, he expressed his view that a woman who harbors feelings for another man is like a deadly poison and cannot be trusted. And therefore, he could not even consider her as a wife for his brother Vichitraveerya. Despite feeling pained, he explained that this was the right action under the circumstances. Amba, who had hoped that Bhishma, called a paragon of virtue, would deliver justice, was enraged by his unexpected response. Her heart was like a volcano of fury, bursting with anger. She warned that he would pay a fitting price for his actions if he rejected her marriage proposal. She declared that a woman filled with anger is far more dangerous than one who is in love with another man. In response, Bhishma reiterated his commitment to his vow and stated that his actions were entirely righteous, ready to face any consequences. Unmoved by his calm demeanor, Amba vowed that she would only find peace when she was the cause of his death, and left the place in a burst of fury. Amba, embarking on a journey without a destination, burdened by the unpredictable twists of her life crafted by the creator god Brahma, walked for hours, overcoming countless obstacles. By the end of the day, exhausted and unable to walk further, she collapsed to her knees and nearly lost consciousness, until she spotted an ashram in the distance. Using the last bit of her strength, she reached the ashram and collapsed. As Amba regained consciousness, she stepped outside and was astonished by the serene environment and natural beauty of the ashram. There, she saw an old sage named Satyavati teaching his disciples about detachment. Drawn to his teachings, she decided to follow the path of a renunciate and shared her traumatic life story with him. At that moment, her grandfather, the royal sage Hathravahana, arrived at the ashram and, after learning about Amba's situation, told her that the only person on earth who could challenge the great warrior like Bhishma and secure justice for Amba was his guru, Lord Parashurama himself. He informed her that Parashurama would be visiting the ashram in 2 days and advised her to seek his help. Hearing Parashurama's name reignited Amba's hope, and she was filled with joy, believing that this was the beginning of the end for Bhishma. Of the supreme god Vishnu himself, Parashurama, the fearsome warrior who circled the earth 21 times and vanquished the corrupt kings, including the 1,000-armed Karthavir Arjuna. Even though Amba eagerly awaited for him, when he finally appeared, Amba was left speechless. Her astonishment and fear intensified by his imposing presence and fierce, matted and intimidating physical appearance. Alongside the overwhelming awe, Amba also felt immense joy, for she believed that he was the only person who could administer justice for her plight. As Hathravahana introduced her to Parashurama and explained her situation, Amba expressed her sorrow and articulated her pain. She implored Parashurama to seek justice by ending the life of Bhishma, the cause of her ruined life. Parashurama, understanding the profound sorrow of Amba and sympathizing with her plight, told her that he could never question Bhishma's commitment to Dharma. However, he believed that in this particular situation, it was only righteous for Bhishma to marry Amba. As his guru, Parashurama declared that he would command Bhishma to marry her, and if Bhishma refused, he promised Amba that he would slay him. Comforted by Parashurama's words, Amba felt relieved knowing that her struggle for justice would finally be resolved. Parashurama announced that they would depart for Hastinapura the next day to settle the matter. Bhishma crowned Vichitraveerya as the king of Hastinapura and immediately married him to the Kashi princesses Ambika and Ambalika, to ensure that he would not misuse his newfound power. Satyavati, beaming with joy, presided over the celebrations, while Bhishma, with dedicated effort, managed the wedding arrangements, ensuring everything was carried out smoothly. Though initially reluctant due to being brought forcibly, Ambika and Ambalika found solace in Satyavati's friendly behavior and soon adapted to the lifestyle of Hastinapura. Despite King Vichitraveerya not spending much time with the young queens due to his indulgences, Ambika and Ambalika learned to adjust to their new life in the kingdom. They gradually accepted their roles and embraced their responsibilities as the queens of Hastinapura. While on one side, Bhishma was immersed in his duties of protecting the kingdom and ensuring that King Vichitraveerya's indulgences did not go unchecked. An informant brought rare news that Parashurama, the revered sage, had arrived in Hastinapura and wished to meet Bhishma. Elated at the opportunity to meet his esteemed guru after so long, Bhishma wasted no time and quickly made his way to Parashurama's presence. Although Amba stood beside Parashurama, Bhishma's focus was solely on receiving his guru's blessings. With deep respect, Bhishma bowed to Parashurama, who was moved by his disciples' reverence, bestowed his blessings upon him. Bhishma, perceiving Amba beside Parashurama, grasped the severity of the circumstance. Without hesitation, Parashurama broached the subject of Amba's anguish, elucidating how Bhishma's forcible abduction had led to her rejection by Salva and her imminent social ostracization. He implored Bhishma to elucidate the veracity behind her allegations. Acknowledging the truth in Amba's claims, Bhishma expounded upon the motivations for his actions. Hearing this, Parashurama accepted Bhishma's perspective as dharmic, yet remained resolute that the responsibility to right the wrongs done to Amba lay with Bhishma. He commanded that Bhishma marry Amba to rectify the irreversible harm done. Astonished Bhishma, faced with the request, expressed his inability to comply, reminding of his lifelong vow of celibacy. In response, Parashurama's anger was reignited by Bhishma's refusal, asserting that if Bhishma defied his command, it would lead to inevitable confrontation. His wrath intensified, and he underscored his unwavering commitment to his promise to Amba, proclaiming that resistance from Bhishma would unequivocally lead to his own downfall. He also admonished that defiance would inexorably bring them to the battlefield. Bhishma, unwavering in his commitment to his vow and the dharmic path he believed in, tried to appease Parashurama with respectful conduct, hoping to avoid further conflict. However, all efforts failed before Parashurama's fiery wrath. Caught between his adherence to Dharma and respect for his revered teacher, Bhishma was torn but ultimately confessed that he could only defy Parashurama because he could not abandon his principles. Resigned, he agreed to the combat, and Parashurama declared that he would await Bhishma at Kurukshetra. Upon his arrival at the royal palace, Bhishma convened with the ministers and royal sages alongside Satyavati to discuss the impending battle with Parashurama. The revelation of this duel left everyone in a state of shock and concern. They warned Bhishma of the gravity of his decision, explaining that confronting a divine avatar like Parashurama was tantamount to inviting death itself. Despite their fears, Bhishma remained resolute in his commitment to uphold Dharma, expressing that retreating in these trying circumstances would not only be a cowardly act, but also a defeat of righteousness itself. While all were gripped with apprehension, the royal sages blessed Bhishma, hoping for his success in this dharmic battle. Bhishma stopped at the sacred banks of the river Ganga before he began his journey to the battlefield. There, he deeply reflected on his mother, goddess Ganga, seeking guidance and strength for the challenges ahead. Miraculously, from the sparkling waters arose the ethereal form of Ganga, whose presence offered solace to him. With a serene smile, she listened as Bhishma confided the burdens he bore and detailed the looming conflict with Parashurama. With her soothing words, Ganga imparted wisdom to her son, affirming his unwavering dedication to Dharma and commending his resolve even in adverse conditions. She reminded him that Bhishma possesses the boon that death will not come to him until he allows it, and similarly, defeat will not come to Parashurama until he accepts it. Additionally, he is immortal, making this war seemingly one-sided. However, she reassured him that his actions were in the protection of Dharma, and thus Dharma would protect him in return. Empowered by his mother's counsel and fortified by the faith of his spiritual mentors, Bhishma set forth to Kurukshetra, filled with a renewed sense of purpose and an unshakable belief in the righteousness of his cause. Upon reaching Kurukshetra, Bhishma found Parashurama standing ready with his bow. Bhishma protested, claiming it dishonorable to fight a dismounted adversary on foot. Parashurama retorted, declaring the ground he stood on as his chariot and the wind as his charioteer. Descending from his chariot, Bhishma drew his bow, encircling Parashurama with a flurry of arrows, demonstrating his devotion. In response, Parashurama showered flowers upon Bhishma through his arrows, bestowing his blessings. As these two great warriors, endowed with divine faculties, clashed, the battlefield grew intense. Bhishma, with precise accuracy, launched his arrows. Imbued with divine force, Parashurama neutralized them all, leaving none to reach him. For the first time in his life, Bhishma witnessed his arrows failing to reach their target. With a shockwave of realization, he understood the immense difficulty of the challenge that lay ahead. Parashurama's relentless barrage intensified, and as each arrow approached Bhishma, it split into many projectiles, each striking with increased ferocity. Bhishma shielded himself, the rhythm of arrows striking his armor echoing across the battlefield. Bhishma felt the endless assault of arrows like an eternal torrent, not finding momentary chances to retaliate amidst the relentless onslaught. Parashurama's remorseless volley continued, challenging Bhishma's every defense. As the battle wore on with countless arrows raining upon him, Amba, observing the intensity of Parashurama's power, felt a vindictive satisfaction against Bhishma's pride. Bhishma's protective armor began to falter under the relentless barrage of arrows. His chariot horses lay dead amidst the ceaseless rain of projectiles, and while many of his accompanying soldiers perished, those who survived retreated to a safer distance. Parashurama unleashed another arrow without giving Bhishma a chance to recover. The arrow transformed into a bolt of lightning that shattered Bhishma's chariot. As he leaped out to survive being hurled on the ground, raised like a wounded lion, and saw no trace of anger or joy on Parashurama's stoic face. Without a moment's delay, Parashurama released another arrow. Bhishma quickly caught it with his shield before it could strike him. Accompanied by a thunderous roar, the lightning force shattered Bhishma's armor, breaking it into pieces. Despite the intense pain, and having never before estimated Parashurama's power to this extent, Bhishma, undeterred and with steadfast resolve, removed the fragments, and commenced his own counterattack. Bhishma's arrows swept through the air like a tempest, each splitting into multiple projectiles aimed directly at Parashurama. Yet, Bhishma's efforts met with frustration as the arrows disintegrated upon merely touching Parashurama's body. Parashurama, with an unyielding gaze, stood as if unmoved and untouched by the assault. This scene only deepened Bhishma's sense of despair and ineffectiveness. As Parashurama launched another volley of arrows, they continued to inflict damage on Bhishma, tearing through his flesh. Despite the pain, Bhishma remained determined, skillfully maneuvering to evade the relentless barrage and counterattacking whenever possible. Meanwhile, Amba watched intently, her satisfaction growing with each moment of Bhishma's struggle, eagerly anticipating his ultimate defeat. As the sun set, casting a crimson light over the battlefield, Parashurama sheathed his weapons and departed for his hermitage. Exhausted and heavily wounded, Bhishma gasped for breath and collapsed to the ground. Amba, watching intently, reveled in the sight, her inner self dancing with joy at Bhishma's downfall. The scene of Bhishma's injuries, which they never thought would happen, left the soldiers aghast, and they quickly carried him back to the palace. With his wounds treated, Bhishma arrived at the battlefield at sunrise, standing resolute. Parashurama, more impressed by his courage and self-confidence than anything else, once again blessed Bhishma before the battle began. Despite using arrows, spears, and swords, Bhishma's attacks had no effect on Parashurama, who shattered them mid-air with his own arrows. His arrows, though, struck Parashurama's body like stones hitting a mountain, causing them to break upon impact. This filled Bhishma with increasing despair, weakening his hopes of victory with each passing moment. Parashurama's relentless attacks wounded Bhishma, but he continued to fight, pulling out the arrows embedded in his body and pressing on. Blood flowed continuously from his wounds. Despite the relentless assault, Bhishma, collapsing and rising again, refused to give up. Each time he fell, disappointing Amba and Parashurama's disciples, who thought he would not rise again. Bhishma stood back up and continued his attack. When all his efforts seemed in vain and defeat appeared certain, a despondent Bhishma made a final attempt. He began to employ the divine weapons that Parashurama himself had taught him, hoping to turn the tide of the battle. When Bhishma deployed the Agnyastra, it unleashed a torrent of flames upon Parashurama. The intense firepower seemed to engulf Parashurama, causing his disciples and Amba to panic in fear and anxiety. They couldn't discern what was happening to Parashurama amidst the blazing inferno. After a while, when the flames subsided, everyone, including Bhishma, looked on with trepidation and curiosity. To their astonishment, Parashurama emerged unscathed, even his hair and garments untouched by the fire. Those watching could hardly believe their eyes, but flames of fury burned brightly in Parashurama's eyes. Immediately, Parashurama countered with the Vayuvastra. Bhishma responded by invoking the Guhyak Astra, the powerful wind capable of uprooting even massive trees, was redirected by the Guhyak Astra, which absorbed the force of the wind and neutralized it. Immediately, Parashurama launched the Nishitastra, releasing poisonous gases that caused Bhishma and his supporters to lose consciousness. As the sun began to set, it seemed that Parashurama would claim victory if Bhishma did not rise before the sun disappeared. But driven by his indomitable willpower, Bhishma rised up and stood still. Though his body was riddled with arrows and weakened by the poisonous gases, Bhishma's resolve remained unbroken. Amba, unable to witness Bhishma's defeat despite Parashurama's relentless assault, felt a deep sense of dissatisfaction. Parashurama, on the other hand, was impressed by his disciples' unwavering determination. Noticing this, Amba urgently reminded Parashurama that Bhishma no longer had the strength to continue and urged him to seize the moment to strike him down. Reluctantly, adhering to the ethics of warfare, Parashurama raised his axe to strike Bhishma, but he refrained as his disciples reminded him that the sun had already set. Disappointed, Amba saw that Bhishma had survived the day due to the mercy of the setting sun, but she consoled herself with the thought that his death was inevitable. The battle entered its third day, and with each passing day, Bhishma felt his strength and confidence waning. Parashurama stood firm amidst the chaos of the battlefield, like an unyielding mighty mammoth, effortlessly countering Bhishma's valiant assaults. Amidst the turmoil, Amba shouted accusations of Bhishma's past misdeeds, reminding him of the souls of the brave warriors he had ruthlessly slain in his arrogance, branding all his actions as unrighteous. Her cruel taunts further undermined Bhishma's self-confidence. Hearing Amba's words, Bhishma's mind wavered. He was deeply distressed, questioning if this was the ultimate outcome for someone who had dedicated his entire life to the protection of Dharma. Doubts clouded his mind. Despite 5 long days of relentless fighting, Bhishma had not been able to gain the upper hand against Parashurama. Every weapon Bhishma deployed was effortlessly neutralized by Parashurama. Each attempt to injure Parashurama ended in disappointment for Bhishma. Throughout his life, he had fought many battles and duels, but never had he faced an opponent as formidable as Parashurama. With an unwavering resolve to uphold the Dharma he believed in and to maintain the honor of his existence, Bhishma fought tirelessly. His body was severely wounded. Each day he fought relentlessly, only to be injured again by Parashurama's arrows. Despite enduring immense physical pain, Bhishma refused to entertain the thought of defeat. Every point of excruciating pain he experienced served as a reminder of his unyielding determination. Even though the thought that defeating Parashurama might be impossible grew stronger, Bhishma resolved to continue the battle as long as there was life in his body. His steadfast determination shone against the dark moments of the battle. Parashurama inflicted grievous wounds upon Bhishma. Knowing that each attack was futile, Bhishma never ceased his efforts. Every day, he sustained severe injuries from fighting Parashurama, only to receive treatment afterwards, continuing this cycle for 19 harrowing days of battle. Amba's dissatisfaction reached its peak. With a heavy heart and a mind filled with turmoil, she mustered the courage to respectfully approach Parashurama and voice the doubts that had arisen in her mind. Her voice trembling with emotion, she expressed that the thought that Parashurama was intentionally sparing Bhishma's life due to his affection for him had been gnawing at her mind. She revealed that such a great person, who had single-handedly annihilated millions of kings, need not engage in this futile battle to satisfy her. She accused Parashurama's actions of suggesting betrayal. Parashurama's face darkened with anger at Amba's accusations. He stood up, fury blazing in his eyes like a volcano, questioning how she dared to accuse him of such treachery. Enraged, he advanced towards Amba, intent on beheading her for her audacity. Though trembling internally at his anger, Amba stood firm. She humbly explained that her life was at Parashurama's mercy, and he had every right to end it. Looking at Parashurama, who had stopped himself from killing her, she pointed out that his failure to defeat Bhishma, an arrogant and unrighteous man, for so many days was not due to a lack of strength or valor. Instead, she asserted that this weakness stemmed from his emotions. She suggested that Parashurama's mind had weakened because of his past personal bond with Bhishma. Therefore, she proposed ending this futile attempt, stating that she would seek another righteous protector who harbored no personal grievances to seek justice for her. Her words pierced Parashurama's mind like an arrow. He began to doubt himself, wondering if his affection for Bhishma was indeed the reason he had not been able to kill him all these days. If that was true, then Amba's accusation that he was betraying her was justified. Unable to refute her claims and burdened by his inner turmoil, he promised her that he would assume his most fierce form the following day to prove her accusations wrong. Parashurama unleashed his full might the next day, attacking Bhishma with all the powerful weapons he had taught him. The sudden change in Parashurama's tactics left Bhishma stunned, making it even more difficult for him to defend himself. When Parashurama deployed a special weapon, meteors began to rain down from the sky, aiming for Bhishma. Amba, Parashurama's disciples, and even Bhishma watched in shock and awe. Bhishma quickly rose to the challenge, using his weapons to intercept the meteors and destroy them mid-air, preventing them from hitting him or his troops. Although Bhishma bravely fought against the meteor assault, their overwhelming number soon took its toll on him. One of the meteors, with immense speed, struck Bhishma, causing a resounding crash and rendering him unconscious as he fell to the ground. When Bhishma opened his eyes, the Vasus appeared before him in a divine display, encouraging him and teaching him about the powerful weapon known as the Prashvapanamakastra. They explained that the immense power of Parashurama could only be defeated if Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva took a combined avatar and emerge on earth. This weapon could weaken Parashurama's tremendous energy and render him into a common man for a short period of time. Assuring Bhishma that victory was certain because this weapon was connected to Vishwakarma, they instilled confidence in him. With his mother Ganga as his charioteer, Bhishma descended from the skies on a flying chariot back to the battlefield. Upon regaining full consciousness at the dawn of the 21st day, Bhishma recalled everything that had happened. Though he was not sure what happened with Vasus was real or his dream, the memory of the Prashvapanamakastra taught by the Vasus was clear in his mind. He used the Prashvapanamakastra and shot the arrow at Parashurama, watching hopefully, yet doubtfully, to see if it would neutralize Parashurama's powers. The arrow approached within inches of Parashurama, and it disintegrated. Bhishma, who had been waiting with high hopes, was once again filled with despair. Parashurama's disciples and Amba looked at Bhishma and laughed mockingly. Nevertheless, without losing heart, he immediately launched arrows filled with immense power. Amba, disciples, and the sages around them watched in astonishment. A glimmer of hope shone in Bhishma's eyes as his arrows pierced Parashurama's body. Blood flowed from the great avatar of the Vishnu, and waves of shock spread across the battlefield among all who witnessed this unexpected turn-off events. Encouraged by this surprising development, Bhishma continued his attack, not giving Parashurama any time to recover. He summoned all his remaining strength and launched countless arrows. Realizing that Bhishma had used some unknown weapon against him, Parashurama, with intense anger and determination to annihilate Bhishma, began a fierce counterattack using his own powerful weapons and counter-weapons. In his rage, Parashurama unleashed the most destructive weapon, the Brahmastra. Knowing that only another Brahmastra could counter it, Bhishma also invoked the Brahmastra. The intensity of the battle reached its peak as the two mighty Brahmastras hurtled toward each other. All eyes were fixed on the impending clash of these explosive forces. As the Brahmastras were about to collide with immense power, Bhishma and Parashurama both stumbled simultaneously, falling to their knees. Their heads throbbed with intense pain, and an unknown force surged through their minds. When the destructive Brahmastras clashed, the immense impact could push the Earth off its orbit. If it were pushed towards the sun, the temperature would increase drastically within moments, turning everything on Earth to ashes. Conversely, if it were pushed away from the sun, the Earth would quickly transform into a frozen wasteland. Additionally, the energy of the Brahmastras could shatter the Earth into pieces, sending the fragments hurtling towards other planets, potentially causing catastrophic disruptions to the entire solar system. These visions flashed through the minds of Bhishma and Parashurama. Amidst these dire images, the divine form of Lord Shiva appeared before them. Realizing the gravity of the situation, both warriors understood that their immediate duty was to retract the Brahmastras. Bhishma and Parashurama were both caught in a dilemma. Whomever retracted their Brahmastra first would be considered to have accepted defeat, so neither was willing to make the first move. However, Bhishma, with profound respect for his guru, decided to withdraw his Brahmastra and began chanting the retraction mantra. Just moments before he could complete the mantra, Parashurama took decisive action, accepting defeat and retracting his Brahmastra. This action left Amba in shock, and her cries echoed across the battlefield. Parashurama approached Bhishma and explained that while Bhishma had fought to uphold Dharma, he himself had been driven by Amba's anger and a petty desire for revenge. He admitted that he had honored the supremacy of Dharma over personal grudges by accepting defeat. Bhishma, moved by his guru's words, felt great joy that his adherence to Dharma was finally understood by his mentor. In a fit of rage, Amba screamed that while Bhishma might have defeated Parashurama, she herself was not defeated. She declared that no matter how many people considered Bhishma's actions as righteous, in her eyes, they would always be unrighteous. She vowed that she would not find peace until she was the cause of Bhishma's death, and stormed away in anger. Impressed by Bhishma's valor and purity of heart, Parashurama granted him an extraordinary boon, stating that as long as Bhishma held a weapon, no force in the universe could defeat him in battle. This divine gift elevated Bhishma's prowess to an unparalleled level and cemented his dominance on the battlefield permanently.